In December 1961, 4.5 centuries of Portuguese colonial rule came to an end. Goa formally integrated into the Indian Republic, transitioning from a colonial outpost to a territory charting its own path. The immediate post-liberation years were defined by rapid expansion. The government laid down new road networks to connect previously isolated rural sectors, while healthcare facilities and schools began reaching villages that had historically been cut off from state resources. By 1987, this sustained administrative integration culminated in a major political milestone. The central government granted Goa full statehood, making it the 25th state of the Indian Union. That same year brought a deeply personal victory for the local population. The state officially recognized Konkani as its official language, securing a distinct linguistic identity that residents had campaigned decades to protect. Throughout this rapid modernization, Goa deliberately protected its built heritage. Structures like the Basilica of Bom Jesus remained untouched, preserving the heavy Baroque architecture that defined the region's skyline. The Sé Cathedral and other massive colonial-era churches were maintained as active centers of community life rather than relegated to museum pieces. In its first few decades, Goa managed to expand its infrastructure and services while keeping its multi-layered, centuries-old history intact. That precise balance became a global draw. The narrow, vibrant streets of neighborhoods like Fontainhas and the relaxed coastal lifestyle soon transitioned from a quiet local reality to an international attraction. As visitors arrived, the local economy adapted. Entire coastal villages pivoted to hospitality, opening guest houses and restaurants, creating a surge of new jobs and steady income for thousands of families. This line chart plots the exponential growth of tourist arrivals in the state. Starting in 1990, the numbers climbed steadily, and by the 2020s, the volume of domestic and international visitors completely dwarfs the local population. The very charm and heritage that drew Goa's initial economic success have now become the catalyst for a complex set of environmental and social challenges. Away from the beach resorts and heavily marketed nightlife, there is an internal, community-driven culture. This is the lived Goa, operating entirely independent of the tourism industry. It is rooted in highly local traditions. Villages rally around fiercely competitive inter-village football matches, and crowds gather for teatra, the traditional Konkani theater performances that satirize local politics and social issues. The state runs on a shared cultural calendar, where traditions frequently intersect. Large-scale celebrations like the Spring Festival at Shigmo, Ganesh Chaturthi, and the vibrant, float-filled parades of Carnival require weeks of collective craftsmanship and planning. Annual village feasts reinforce these networks, ensuring community ties and shared resilience remain strong across generations. Goa's true value lies in this living, breathing community network. Its core asset is the people and their shared practices, rather than the real estate. The desire to experience this landscape has led to intense physical pressure. Coastal zones are now routinely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of transient visitors. To accommodate the demand for luxury housing and new hotels, developers are actively slicing into hillsides, clearing ground for massive construction projects. This urbanization is creeping outward from the coast and deep into the hinterlands. The expansive, ancient forests of the Western Ghats are steadily shrinking as concrete footprints expand. This map illustrates recent land conversions under Section 39A. Agricultural and protected forest lands are legally rezoned for commercial development. The existing infrastructure cannot support this density. Local roads choke with traffic, and waste management systems overflow within these expanding zones. The current priority on short-term commercial gain is increasingly at odds with the long-term sustainability of the local environment. The convergence of lenient policy, private development interests, and the sheer scale of visitor volume is placing a strain on the state's stability. For the people living in traditional villages, this rapid adjacent urbanization creates a constant state of anxiety. The landscape they recognize is disappearing piece by piece. The quiet, steady pace of historic neighborhoods is now routinely disrupted by the heavy noise, dust, and daily friction of unchecked commercial construction right next door. As surrounding land values skyrocket, traditional farming becomes economically unviable. Generational practices, like cultivating these coastal rice paddies, are abandoned as the land is sold off. Faced with an unaffordable housing market, local youth migrate out of the state, draining the villages of the people needed to sustain traditions. The loss of the physical landscape triggers a decline in the unique cultural ecosystem that relies upon it. Goa currently faces two very distinct trajectories. Unchecked expansion threatens to exhaust the natural beauty and community spirit that initially drew the world to its shores. This comparison model shows the alternative. A path of sustainable development stabilizes the region by enforcing protections on rivers, forests, and cultural zones, ensuring long-term viability over rapid resource collapse. Correcting course requires a shared model of responsibility. It demands strict government regulation, active local stewardship of resources, and a shift toward mindful tourism. Goa is a fragile, shared heritage. It requires active preservation, because once this landscape and culture are consumed, they cannot be rebuilt.